Have you messed around with Borderlands 3 at all yet, or are you interested in that?
So I'm going to get it, but I'm probably going to get it either tonight or tomorrow when I get off work. It all depends on how much I get paid tonight from Bodie.
Right. I actually started playing it last night. It's fun. It's fun. It's really cool. I was playing as Flack, and my buddy was also playing as Flack too. He's the one that you can have like a pretty much permanent sidekick. And there's like
Oh yeah.
three different versions. You can have like an arachnid looking like xenomorph thing almost. Or it almost kind of
Right.
looks like something from fucking Starship Troopers. Or you can have like a
Okay.
monkey. So that's the one I chose. I've got this monkey running around with a fucking gun and shit. And then there's a third one who
From Captain Planet.
yeah, I forget what the third one is, but
What was
but
that monkey's name?
from Captain Planet.
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't remember. But
The monkeys and the poor kid that got hi. I just pet monkey. Like, honestly, I would rather have a pet monkey than the ring that says, hi.
right, just a monkey running around with a gat.
At least fucking like reach the remote for me. Like
Yeah,
monkey remote.
it's like let's let's
Like,
let's see you litter with a gun in your mouth. But anyways, so what's up, guys? We're here for episode 3 of the Tide podcast. I'm Adrian, here with my buddy Steve,
Yo, I
and
think I claimed that one.
but anyways, yeah. So we were just giving a little bit of insight into Borderlands 3 and how awesome it is. So definitely recommend checking that out if you guys haven't yet. It's a lot of fun. I only played for a couple hours last night, but I'm definitely gonna get in some more time a little bit later tonight. But anyways,
Well, telling you this, I was wondering. I can't remember what the monkey's name from Captain Planet is. So if you watch this or listen to this, leave down in the description what the name of the monkey is from Captain Planet.
and whether or not that having if you would choose the monkey over the ring. Keep in mind, this monkey does have a gun. But anyways, so topic today, the Mandela effect. It's pretty interesting theory. Steve, what do you know about the Mandela effect?
I know that it is pronounced the Berenstain Bears, not the Berenstain Bears. That's what I.
That's one of them. Yes.
That is what I can tell you.
So
The Berenstain Bears.
the Mandela effect is this it's a name given to really interesting phenomenon that is basically about false memories or I mean false memories it is what we can attribute it to, but a lot of people think that it's actually the multiple universes colliding and us remembering things that either didn't happen in our reality or the essentially the change of written history or recorded history, I should say. So one of the more famous ones, as you mentioned right now, is the Berenstain Bears, which a lot of people remember it as the Berenstain Bears. A lot of people, or like if you go back and look now, it's actually the Berenstain Bears, and apparently always has been. So
Okay, that's the thing. Nobody ever called it the Berenstain Bears. Like growing up, it was never called that.
yeah,
Like I would specifically remember that. Like it's like a tomato type thing. Like you hear it and how other people pronounce things. No, I never once heard Berenstain. I've always heard Berenstain.
right, yeah, and I always remember it at the Berenstain.
The class.
Yeah, I honestly don't think I know anybody that remembers it as the Berenstain Bears. But
it's weird, but it's the Berenstein.
Yeah.
Berenstein thing. It's not. It's EIN, not AIN. IA. Whatever the weird spelling is.
Yeah. So the name, the Mandela effect, actually comes from another one of the weird memory misrememberings, if you want to call it that. And it's because a lot of people apparently remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison, which he didn't do, and that's one of the ones that I don't actually remember having have happened.
Yeah, I don't know that one either. Like, I'm aware of it, but
Yeah.
I mean, we were so young that we didn't really talk about Nelson Mandela, at least when we were in school.
Right.
I don't remember them ever mentioning anything like that.
But yeah, a lot of people seem to remember him dying in prison, and he actually didn't die until I think it was like 2013, and he was obviously out of prison at the time, so he never actually died in prison, according to our written history. But there's a lot of other weird ones. For example, the Monopoly. Have you heard of that one?
The which one? The Monopoly?
Yeah.
No, which one's that?
So, the Mr. Moneybags.
Yeah.
What do you remember him looking like?
Yeah, top hat, monocle, or kind of like one of those penguin rich guy suits, mustache.
Yeah.
I think he had it at one point.
Right. So apparently he's never had a monocle.
What?
Yeah. Mr. Moneybags
Wait.
from Monopoly has never had a monocle.
Wait a minute. I happen to have Monopoly board right in front of me. All right. Oh my God, he doesn't have a monocle.
Right. Yeah, that's another weird one. You know,
No, wait, he had a monocle.
I can kind of see where the argument comes in some of these, that it could just be false memories or just misremembering things. With this one, I think one of the big explanations is a lot of people are putting the memories that they have of Mr. Peanut, who is kind of similar, and he always did have a monocle, and imprinting that onto Monopoly. Although I would say that I do also remember Mr. Moneybags having a monocle. But I could see why you can make that argument as well, of us just misremembering that because of Mr. Peanut.
But maybe our brains are conditioned to see people of that character a certain way in our heads.
True.
Like, go, yes.
Right.
You're immediately going to think about like adjusting a monocle, and maybe our brains just somehow assume that onto the character, and we see what isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. The Berenstein Bears. That is the one that nobody can explain. It was the motherfucking Berenstein Bears. It was like the Berenstain Bears.
Right.
Period. I would remember distinctly teacher saying Berenstain, and I'd scratch my head and be like, oh, I thought it was Berenstein. That never happened. It just carried on. So someday, like a few years ago, somebody pointed out, oh, guys, it's not Berenstein, it's Berenstain. It's like, no, it's not. And then you look at all the context of the Berenstein Bears, and you realize, holy crap, somebody reprogrammed the Matrix here. It's like our childhood was a lie.
So, another pretty wild one. So there's actually a lot of movie ones. Like lines from movies and stuff like that. Silence of the Lambs. I'm sure you're familiar with the film, right, Steve?
Of course.
So, what's the famous line from that movie? The famous Hannibal Lecter line.
There's so many famous lines.
Like if you
Out of fava beans and the Chianti or something
Yeah.
like that, or place the lotions in the basket, or else you get the hose again, or I fucked me. I mean, there's so many good lines in that.
Think specifically Hannibal Lecter talking to talking to the main FBI agent, Clarice.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think what a lot of people are going to remember the famous line from there is the whole "Hello, Clarice" thing, right?
Yeah.
So apparently he never says that in the movie.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
What?
that
Say that
line
again. What line did he say?
"Hello, Clarice" is actually uh never said.
Really?
Yeah, that one's interesting. You know what? And I could probably attribute this to most of the movie lines that we're going to be talking about, since there are a lot of them. But I could see it just being there's so many parodies of famous lines like this, and when
Right.
one of them changes it or whatever, and then that
Right.
starts coming into our memory, and then we just start remembering it as that. Um,
Mm.
you know, like uh like this one, for example. I believe it's he says good morning to her, and like good morning, Clarice, or something like that. But he never actually says like hello, Clarice, which is what's like always parodied in things when they're trying to reference that.
Now that you say it, I actually remember him saying "Good morning, Claire." Good morning, Claire.
Or like the
Really? Wow. That is blown right now.
another one is the fucking what is it, Forrest Gump, the
Yeah.
life is like a box of chocolates thing, whatever, is actually
Yeah.
always misquoted.
Right. I like a box of chocolate.
Yeah,
Never know what you're going to get.
which is apparently not the line at all.
I mean, it goes on to explain itself, but he says that in the movie. I like a box of chocolate. And then he eats one. It's like, you never know what you're going to get. Like, he's chomping on the chocolate when he delivers the line.
The one I think that I definitely remember um, being weirded out by was the whole Shazam thing. Shazam Kazam, like Sinbad not being in a movie called Shazam. That I swear to God I remember from like being a kid.
No, Sinbad was in a movie called Shazam.
Apparently he never was. He's gone on
Really?
record as saying I was never in a movie called Shazam. As a genie, right? Like that's what you remember?
No, I remember Shaq was a genie.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I never saw the movie. I don't remember, but I remember seeing like the ads for it. I can. Wait, what? No, he was
Yes.
in a movie called Shazam.
Shazam starring Sinbad has
Yeah.
never existed.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Wait. Oh no. Oh, I'm going to YouTube that.
Am I just blowing your
How
mind?
that happened?
No, that's
Probably
a that's a
one of
wild
like
one
the
for me.
mid '90s ish movies. I think it was kind of.
Yeah,
I
like
thought it was
early.
on the era as the Shaq one.
Yeah, so the Shaq one actually came out in 1996. Um,
Yeah.
Sinbad was, in like kids movies in like the early 90s. Like he was in if you remember that movie, The First Kid. I think he's like a Secret Service agent and he's like protecting the president's kid or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a fun movie.
So there was that, and some of the one of the things that people say to that might be a cause of this misremembering is apparently that movie First Kid. actually has a trailer for Kazam in front of it. On the VHS tape back when they used to have throw trailers in front of in front of movies like that.
So it
Like
was
on
a trailer
tapes.
for a movie called Shazam, right?
No, it was for Kazam, the Shaq one.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, allegedly the Shazam movie starring Sinbad has never existed.
Yeah, it did. It came out around the same era.
It's wild. It's pretty wild shit. Um,
What the hell? Like, you remember it too, right?
oh, absolutely. That was the one that really initially got me interested in this, like that, and the whole obviously the whole Berenstein and Berenstein thing. Um, but the Shazam thing, like when I first heard that that wasn't real, I was like, what the fuck? Like that's crazy.
Oh, that rattles my head.
You're gonna be thinking about that shit all day.
Jeez.
But
So, wow.
apparently there's still stuff kind of happening that's coming up. And it's possible that some of this stuff is still kind of changing. But and I remember I texted you about this the other week when I initially heard about this. But and maybe for the people that are listening, uh, I'd be very curious as to whether or not you guys remember any of this stuff. But if you remember, Steve,
What?
the other week I texted you asking if you remembered ever hearing about any attacks by the Japanese on the U.S. besides Pearl Harbor, and you
No.
hadn't, or well, maybe not specifically by the Japanese, but any like attacks on around that time, and
Right.
we
Then I
did.
mentioned the Battle of Los Angeles.
Yeah, there was the Battle of Los Angeles, which we still don't even really know exactly what that was. But, and, that was the only one that I was aware of. But apparently there were at least 5 attacks on U.S. soil during that time. Besides the one that we all knew of, which was just absolutely insane to me because, like, I don't remember ever learning about any of
Where
these.
exactly were we attacked? I mean, Hawaii and Guam. I mean, do those count?
So we're talking California, Oregon, Washington, like the West Coast essentially, like mainland
Really?
U.S. Yeah, which
Huh.
and that shit just blew my mind. Like there were, there were like submarine attacks, there were bombings.
Really?
Let's see,
I, I I don't remember hearing anything of that.
yeah, and it's pretty crazy. Like let's
Like that
see.
would be something that you would think they would try to nudge at in history books.
So, after the attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941, a small contingent of Japanese submarines was dispatched east to patrol the California coastline. On February 23rd, 1942, the Japanese submarine I-17 slinked in a channel near Elwood Oil Field, a large oil well and storage facility outside of Santa Barbara. After surfacing, the submarine lobbed 16 shells at Elwood Beach from its lone deck gun before submerging and fleeing into the open ocean off the
Huh.
coast of Santa Barbara. And then bombing of Fort Stevens. Fort Stevens, I think, was that. Yeah, that was along the Oregon coastline.
Yeah, I've never heard of any of these.
And there was a few other ones. There's this one really weird one where they used like balloon bombs or some shit. Like they tied all these bombs to this like balloon type thing and like flew it onto the mainland. It seems it looks like some fucking Doctor Robotnik shit. Like like it's a fucking level in Sonic or something.
Does it have cute little eyes on it or something? Like,
But so apparently, nearly 350 of these bombs actually made it across the Pacific, and several were intercepted or shot down by the U.S. military from 1944 to 1945. Balloon bombs were spotted in more than 15 states, some as far east as Michigan and Iowa. The only
Really?
fatalities came from a single incident in Oregon where a pregnant woman and 5 children were killed in an explosion after coming across one of these downed balloons. Their deaths are considered the only combat casualties to occur on U.S. soil during World War II.
Really?
But yeah, they were,
Interesting.
let's see,
Yeah,
starting in
I never heard any of them.
1944, the Japanese military constructed and launched over 9,000 high altitude balloons, each loaded with nearly 50 pounds of anti-personnel and incendiary explosives. Amazingly, these unmanned balloons originated from over 5,000 miles away in the Japanese home islands. After being launched, the specifically designed hydrogen balloons would ascend to an altitude of 30,000 feet and ride the jet stream across the Pacific Ocean in the mainland U.S. The bombs were triggered to drop after the 3 day journey was completed, hopefully over a city or wooded region that would catch fire. Never heard of
Hmm.
that. Never heard that before until like 2 or 3 weeks ago when I heard some people talking
I,
about it on a podcast and was like, "What the fuck?" Like I've never heard of that, and then started
I've never
googling
heard anything
it
like that.
and was like, what the shit?"
I can still visualize like the VHS cover of Shazam.
I know, right?
Okay, so we're going to play a game. You're going to tell me what you remember of the VHS cassette tape of Shazam, and I'm going to either agree or disagree with you.
Okay.
Okay, what do you remember about the VHS cover of Shazam?
So, I remember. I remember his arms being folded.
Okay.
Sinbad. I don't know if he had. I don't know if he had a hat in the cover, but I definitely remember the trailer was almost, or like at least a clip from the movie of him like doing his whole like Sinbad shtick where he was
Right.
like like yelling at the person, but it was like a first person view or whatever. So it was like he was like yelling at
Right.
the camera, and he had his hands on his hips and like bending down like he was talking to like a little kid. Um, and I think I do remember him having like a yellow like turban looking thing almost.
Right.
That's mainly the stuff
Okay,
that
so
I
what
remember.
did his outfit look like? Like what style? Because I don't remember the trailer, but I want to boil down the like that look.
I think he had a vest. I don't
I
think
don't
he
remember if that's
I don't think he had a shirt. Like I think his arms were bare,
right.
vest, poofy pants.
Yeah, he had like a kind of like a weird kind of decorative vest. He had his arms out. He was wearing like one of the Ali Ababa hats, right?
Yeah.
And I remember him being on the VHS cover with his arms crossed and like the big Shazam letters, like he was coming up from behind it.
Hmm.
One of those types of deals. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds very
That's what.
similar to my memories of it. But yeah, that one's just wild like that it never existed.
So where are we pulling this from? Because we've never talked about this before in our lives.
Yeah.
Hearing for the first time now that this movie Shazam didn't actually happen.
That's wild because I didn't know that you actually didn't know about that. That's kind of funny. But yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
see,
like
I don't remember the trailer. I just remember like knowing of it, seeing like the commercials and whatnot. But I mean, just general Sinbadiness.
right. Cuz he was, around that time he had He had that show that was pretty popular. I mean, I know
Right. I mean,
I was a big fan of it. I really loved Sinbad when I was a little kid. Um,
in the early to mid '90s, that was the rise and fall of Sinbad. Now he's doing stand-up tours at the Ohio State Fair or something. I don't know. Or he's on. He's doing the comedy styling for the family-friendly 9 o'clock docket on the cruise ship. Like he's that guy. Like, you'll keep seeing him performed on your next Carnival cruise. Really? You need a government like Bob Lazardum or something. Just wiped it from existence.
so, Looney
Does
Tunes.
Battlefield Earth still happen? I have
Right.
vivid memories of that one.
Yeah.
I'd love for it all to be pretend.
I really wish I could get my hands on that voicemail left by John Travolta's agent begging him not to do the movie. So,
I have vivid memories of Battlefield Earth.
Looney Tunes.
Vivid
You're
as I have theirs.
right.
Maybe there's a possibility that we're all just masters hallucinating Battlefield Earth. Forrest Whitaker is like some weird dreadlock alien bad guy thing with John Travolta. Come on. Anyway.
So, obviously you know about the Looney Tunes, like you're aware of the Looney Tunes. Some stuff that we grew up watching. You know, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, all that shit.
Right.
How do you remember it being spelled?
How do I remember it being what?
Spelled.
Spelled?
Yeah.
Looney Tunes?
Yeah.
Loonynes.
So tunes as in like, you know, like a song, right?
Yeah, it's not Tuns. It should be Toons. Because there's the whole thing, Looney, Loo, and then Tune, T.
So tunes as in like cartoons? That's how
Yeah, I thought it
you
was within like cartoons, like Looney, Loo, and then Tune, Too.
Okay. So that's how you remember it, like spelled like cartoons, like Looney.
Minimum fees seem to be the foundation.
So yeah, that was a little.
No,
So apparently, it is actually tunes, as in Tunes, and it's always been
really?
Tunes. Yes.
What's
Another,
the double O's?
another, yeah, that's another weird one. Um, Actually, you know what? I wonder. I can do like a little on the fly experiment with this one.
Interesting.
Okay. You know what? I think I know why we misremember that one. So Tiny Toons is actually spelled Toons.
Ah,
I bet you that's why we remember that one as, or we probably apply that to Looney Tunes and think of it that way because we were probably way more familiar with Tiny Toons as opposed to like the Looney Tunes. Like obviously we did watch Looney Tunes, but Tiny Toons was probably
I grew up watching Looney Tunes. My father loved Looney Tunes.
yeah.
God, Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner was my favorite. My father loves Foghorn Leghorn, and I was so young at the time. I couldn't understand why he liked this guy. Now I'm older, I can understand. Like, oh, I see the adult charm in Foghorn. I get it now. God, yeah, I grew up with him. But I mean, I was very young at the time, but once I started to become more aware, it was when Tiny Toons became super popular, and
Right.
I left on of that.
Yeah, the How I Spent My Summer Vacation. That movie.
Oh yeah, I have that on VHS in the man cave.
Yeah, we watched that. One of the recent times that I've been down there. The
Oh man,
Happy World Land.
Happy World Land. Okay, now here's one that. Do you remember the Looney Tunes? How I spent my spring break.
No.
So when Looney Tunes, when Tiny Toons was in the peak of its glory, I remember one of my friends at the schoolyard, or in the schoolyard, just one day, came up and said, "Oh guys, did you see how I spent my spring break?" And all of us were like, "No, what are you talking about? That never happened." He's like, "No, I swear, like they made fun of Mickey Mouse, and they were going on a road trip to like someone's house or something. Just,
Huh.
it actually happened." It's like, no, that never happened. Turns out it was a straight TV animated movie.
Interesting.
It actually happened. You can find it, but it was just one of those weird things that you would think at the time would have been more hype, but nobody seems to know about it. It's so weird. It's like a reverse Mandela effect.
Right. So there's a couple of theories as to what could have happened. That's leading to us, having all these weird memories. And it's like whether or not a universe or whatever is crashing into ours, and some of us are maybe it's changing our memories, or we're becoming different people, or something like that, like the version of us from like another universe is now is replacing the one in this universe, or weird shit like that.
Hearing he speak a long time ago, I think it was possibly on Art Bell, about 2012, and how with 2012 with the the end of the world or whatnot, it wasn't that. It was supposed to be like the merging of two different universes, and those who are sensitive to it will be aware of it happening, but the everyday people, like we wouldn't notice the changes that were taking place.
Right.
So I remember hearing long ago on George Norrie, Coast to Coast, or that was what he speculated would actually happen during 2012. It wasn't the end; it was a convergence.
Almost like a new beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the theories going around that could be why some of the stuff started happening, how some of these universes could have started merging, is actually CERN. You know what CERN is? That big research facility.
Yeah, the Hadron Collider.
Yeah, exactly, in Switzerland. So
the one that could potentially create a black hole that can consume the Earth. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So some people think that maybe the first time it was turned on, like the collider, that it actually ripped a hole in space and time and merged two universes together, and that's where some of these misrememberings started coming together. Or
okay, so when did CERN get first powered up for the first time?
Let's take a look.
So here's what we can do, and this is something that anybody can do. Let's see when they first fired up CERN and how many times they did certain types of experiments. All that should be documented.
So the Large Hadron Collider is the world's largest, most powerful particle accelerator. It first started up on September 10th, 2008.
2008?
Yep.
Okay, now, when did the rise of the Mandela effect take place?
Let's see. It would have to be like post-internet, obviously.
Oh, of course.
Because we would
You'd have a collection of knowledge, but honestly, I wasn't really familiar with the Mandela effect until about 2010.
So that is a good point, because I'm pretty sure that I just saw.
I think that should lead to some
So
further research. See
in
if
2000,
there's any correlation between the research, the surge of these quote unquote false memories, and see how that relates to any sort of experiments conducted at CERN.
so in 2010, this shared false memory phenomenon was dubbed the Mandela effect by self-described paranormal consultant Fiona Broom. In reference to a false memory she reported on the death of South African leader Nelson Mandela in the 1980s, who was at this time still alive, which she claimed was shared by perhaps thousands of other people. Other such examples include memories of the Berenstain Bears, name previously being spelled as Berenstein, and of a 1990s movie Shazam starring comedian Sinbad as a genie. Pseudoscience commentators such as Broom have speculated about alternate realities as an explanation for such shared false memories. However, most science researchers and commentators suggest that these are instead examples of false memories shaped by similar cognitive factors affecting multiple people, such as social and cognitive reinforcement of incorrect memories, or false news reports and misleading photographs that influence the formation of memories based on them. For example, the false memories of Shazam have been explained as a conflation of memories of the comedian wearing a genie costume during a TV presentation of Sinbad the Sailor movies in 1994, and a similarly named 1996 film Kazam featuring a genie played by Shaquille O'Neal. Sinbad the Sailor. Gonna have to look this up.
What? Okay, so, but you said initially this came about in about 2010?
2010 is when that name initially, when it was dubbed.
Okay, so what did I just say before that? I didn't know what this was until 2010.
Yep.
Up until that point, it was, yes, and it was something I never even thought of. It was like, Sinbad was in that terrible Shazam movie that I never saw. You could think about stuff like that. But Berenstein, I grew up with that. Teachers reading that. Like, I remember vividly them saying Berenstein Bears. I never said Berenstain Bears. So my memory of that seemed to happen in 2010 when people started questioning these things. They're like, well, wait a minute. And that was, oddly enough, 2 years after the activation of the Hadron Collider that was possible reality warping capabilities.
Right.
Not saying that it is, but I find it interesting. See, there you go. We could be onto something. Heard it here, folks.
Interesting. So,
Wrap your head around that one, Adrian. What about you? Do you remember maybe when these memories started to come into question?
I don't specifically remember any dates or anything like that.
Now, keep in mind, the internet started to really blossom at around 1998. We've had high-speed internet since the 2000s. Like,
Right.
it's been, internet has grown up really quickly to where past the year 2000, not a lot of people are using dial-up. It was all cable and DSL. So we had this level of information exchange. And why is it that it took 12 years for people to come to the common consensus of, hey, wait a minute, what happened to Nelson Mandela? Why are people now calling it the Berenstain Bears? And it was clearly this. And, reality. So it's odd that it took 12 years for it to reach that point of cultural awareness. Because usually if somebody says something big like that, really click on the internet.
Right.
This is, I mean, I'm being generous. This is 10 years. 10 years of internet.
So I've got some more interesting dates regarding CERN and the Large Hadron Collider. So
Okay.
its first operational run lasted from 2009 to 2013. So on November 20th, 2009, low energy beams circulated in the tunnel for the first time since the incident. The incident was an incident in the quench of the Large Hadron Collider in September of 2008. So that kind of shut things down for a little bit. And then in 2009, in November of 2009, they started running it up again. So shortly after, on November 30th, the LHC achieved 1.18 TeVs per beam to become the world's highest energy particle accelerator, beating the Tevatron's previous record of 0.98 TeV per beam held for 8 years. The early part of 2010 saw the continued ramp-up of beam in energies and early physics experiments towards 3.5 TeV per beam, and on March 30th, 2010, the LHC set a new record for high-energy collisions by colliding proton beams at a combined energy of 7 TeVs. So, before that, the Tevatron had the previous record of 0.98 TeVs per beam. In 2010, the LHC hit 7 TeVs. That's more than 7 times the amount.
Wow.
And the attempt was the third that day after 2 unsuccessful attempts in which the protons had to be dumped from the collider and new beams had to be injected. This also marked the start of the main research program. The first proton run ended on November 4th, 2010. A run with lead ions started on November 8th, 2010 and ended on December 6th, 2010, allowing the ALICE experiment to study matter under extreme conditions similar to those shortly after the Big Bang.
Adrian, are you reading this? Because I know you normally do your research. Are you reading all this for the first time?
I mean, I was familiar with a lot of the stuff that happened with CERN and the Large Hadron Collider, but I didn't quite realize before that the dates were so similar. Like I didn't know that the Mandela effect was dubbed in 2010, or that all these like CERN experiments with the Large Hadron Collider were going on around the same time. I knew that CERN and the Large Hadron Collider was a big theory regarding, like, the beginning of this whole Mandela effect, but I didn't quite realize that that it was like so interconnected, that it could really be a huge part of why these memories like started intersecting. And
Wow.
then that 2012 date comes up again. So CERN originally planned the LHC would run through the end of 2012, with a short break at the end of 2011 to allow for an increase in beam energies from 3.5 to 4 TeVs per beam. At the end of 2012, the LHC was planned to get shut down until around 2015 to allow upgrade to a planned energy beam of 7 TeV per beam. In late 2012, in light of the July 2012 discovery of the Higgs boson, the shutdown was postponed for some weeks in early 2013 to allow additional data to be obtained before shutdown. So it ran through the end of 2012, and they shut it down in early 2013. So there's that 2012 date again, which obviously, was a big thing to the Mayans, It was always like a big doom prophecy, and then like you were saying, um, with Nori and Coast to Coast, they talked about it being not quite an end of the world scenario, but maybe the beginning of a new world, which is if you go back and look at like the Mayan calendar, and it just it ending in 2012. A lot of people thought that it meant, like doom and gloom, like, the world was going to end and all that. But
Right.
realistically, that's not really what they were saying. What they were saying was that was just the end of the calendar, in that it was going to be the
Right.
end of that
Like
recorded
reading the cycle.
history, and afterwards would begin anew, which kind of plays into what they were talking about on Coast to Coast, and potentially if you look at it with the LHC and with CERN, that could be a thing. Because yeah, I mean
Right.
they stopped running it at the end of 2012 to upgrade it in
How do you
2013.
upgrade a Hadron Collider? Like, what does that look like?
Right. So
Oh, a bunch of more parts, boy. What could that possibly look like in your head when somebody describes to you, we are updating the world's largest Hadron Collider? And you've seen pictures of this monster. This thing's gigantic.
yeah,
Like, what does an upgrade to that look like?
so apparently, so they shut it down in February of 2013 for 2 years to upgrade it. They did like a lot of magnets. It was a lot of internal stuff. They
Right.
upgraded the electrical connectors between the bending magnets to handle the current that they were trying to upgrade. Um, and they started it back up in 2015. It looks like, yeah.
I don't know, man. I think that we can just make a whole other show just based off the research that you find and what these
Yeah,
things
and
and
like
how it
there,
lines up with the color.
and this stuff is all fairly easy to find. Like right now, I'm just on the Wikipedia of the Large Hadron Collider. Um, so actually, I'm looking at a timeline right now. I wonder if I could find. Let's see. So back to the whole Mandela effect thing, dubbed in 2010 by this Fiona Broom lady. In September of 2008, CERN successfully fired the first protons around the entire tunnel circuit in stages. The
Right.
magnetic quench incident occurred in September of 2008, 9 days after they initially fired the first protons. We'll go down, let's see. The first time that they were able to collide the beams at 7 was in March of 2010. November of 2010 was the start of the first run with lead ions. A month later was the end of the run with lead ions, and then they shut it down for a couple months until early 2011. And then so November 8th, 2012, the first observation of the very rare decay of the B meson into two muons, a majority test of supersymmetry theories, showing results at 3.5 sigma that match the standard model rather than many of the symmetrical variants or something like that.
Right.
But anyways, this stuff is all very sciency, and yeah, way above our heads.
Beyond our evil comprehension.
Yeah, we're just like those monkeys from 2001: A Space Odyssey, looking at the I could
think
definitely see why people would think that this has something to do with changes in our memories or changes in just the very fabric of space and time. Because it's essentially almost like a black hole that they're creating down there. And apparently they're working on trying to build an even bigger one. A larger Hadron Collider.
because we need it bigger.
Right. So, another interesting thing that I heard recently was a theory that this was initially started a long, long time ago by Benjamin Franklin. So, are you aware or are you aware of the Philadelphia experiment?
I'm not, or maybe I am, and I just can't remember right now.
So initially, the Philadelphia experiment. What most people are gonna remember that as is this incident in God. I want to say it was like the 50s, maybe, but essentially it was a ship, like a U.S. battleship, off the coast, off the East Coast, that they were running some experiments on it with some Tesla coils, and it actually teleported.
Oh,
That's
really?
Yeah. Let me see if I could actually pull that up so I can reference a few things.
Like teleported?
Yeah, like the ship completely moved to another location. So the Philadelphia experiment is an alleged military experiment supposed to have been carried out by the U.S. Navy at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, sometime around October 28th, 1943. The U.S. Navy destroyer escort USS Eldridge was claimed to have been rendered invisible or cloaked to enemy devices. The story first appeared in 1955 in letters of an unknown origin sent to writer and astronomer Morris K. Jessup. It is widely understood to be a hoax. The U.S. Navy maintains that no such experiment ever conducted, and the details of the story contradict well-established facts about the USS Eldridge, and the alleged claims do not conform to known physical laws. But essentially, the story is that they were running some experiment on there, which they were initially trying. What they were initially trying to do was to cloak this thing. They were trying to create some kind of like cloak that they could use, obviously for military purposes. They were using Tesla coils, and what happened is it ended up teleporting to a completely different area. I think Virginia, yeah. So, let's see. The conjecture then claims that the equipment was not properly recalibrated, and in spite of this, the experiment was repeated in October 1943. This time, the Eldridge not only became invisible, but it disappeared from the area in a flash of blue light and teleported to Norfolk, Virginia, over 2,000 miles away. It is claimed that the Eldridge sat for some time in view of men aboard the ship, the SS Andrew Forsyth, whereupon the Eldridge vanished and then reappeared in Philadelphia at the site it had originally occupied. It was also said that the warship went approximately 10 minutes back in time. So that is.
I think I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's a fairly well known incident in paranormal lore.
But it sounds familiar.
One of the things that's also kind of interesting is that the some of Tesla's technology was actually grabbed by I think it was Trump's uncle or grandfather, but it was one of Trump's like family members were the first to to get their hands on Tesla's tech after he passed away. But anyways, back to the Philadelphia experiment. So when you talk about the Philadelphia experiment, that's the thing that a lot of people initially remember. But the Philadelphia experiment is actually the name of something, another experiment that occurred in Philadelphia like a lot longer ago, and it was dubbed by in like papers and in journals and stuff like that by of something that Benjamin Franklin had actually worked on.
Right.
And he was he was doing a lot of experiments with electricity. Obviously, there's the famous kite thing that everyone knows about, but some people think that he had actually opened some kind of portals with his experiments with electricity, and by doing so, actually caused a rift in time. What's really interesting is I was seeing the number 40 come up a lot when I was looking at this, and that they think that it was actually a that he ripped a hole in space and time in like a 40 by 40 area, and it's still like things are still coming through, and the area is I guess from like Philadelphia to this point in like New York. I think Nantucket, New York, which is also there's also a lot of shit that went on there. That's where a lot of the government's uh, experiments were going on as well. A lot of mind control shit was happening there. I think a lot of the the shit. I'm totally spacing on it, but Stranger Things, like that experiment that they did on 11, that occurred in that area. Like all those mind control experiments that they were trying to bring forth like psychic powers on people. Ah, fuck.
Right.
What is the name of that thing? It starts with an M. I'm totally spacing on that.
Jeez. It sounds like. So here's what we're gonna do. We're a little past the hour. I think we should do some modest investigation as to the operational experiments on CERN and how it
Yeah,
relates to the Mandela effect.
there's definitely entire episodes that we can do on CERN. There's a lot of like weird shit that has happened there. There's actually a video on YouTube apparently that you can find of some students or some people there like doing some weird ritual like at CERN, like where they're wearing like all this like ritualistic like robes and stuff like that before they do like an experiment, and they've come out and
There's a YouTube
said,
video of it?
yeah, I haven't seen it, but I've heard about it. Um,
Huh.
Let me see if I could find it, and I'll tell you guys what to look up. Okay, so
Well,
yeah, I found it. Um,
so why don't you go ahead and message it to me, and then when we close out, put it down in the description so
yeah,
people can take a look.
and if you guys, we'll put a link. You guys can find this as well. All you have to do is type in mock human sacrifice ceremony at CERN. And this is a real thing that I'm watching right now, which is crazy. But yes, we'll put that in the comments. We're gonna do some more research on CERN, and we'll do an episode in the future because there's obviously like a lot of crazy shit that has happened there, and that's probably still happening. I'm sure that there's some stuff that's happening there right now. There's videos on CERN that you guys can find that's put on by them, so who knows, like, you're probably not going to see anything like that interesting there, but on their website you can like actually uh, follow their experiments on what they're doing officially. Um, but there's plenty of stuff out there as well, plenty of theories on what's really going on there and what they're really trying to do. And it I wouldn't be surprised if they actually did something with this Large Hadron Collider. We can only theorize like so much of like what would actually happen when we turn these kinds of things on, but when you're actually really doing it, like who knows like what kind of effect that has. And there's all sorts of theories on as to like what kind of effect that actually did have. Some people think that like again the Mandela effect was caused by it. Some people think that it actually destroyed the universe and we're all actually dead now and this is a purgatory that we're sitting in, like not really realizing it. That would be pretty wild. But yeah, but yeah, guys, we're at about the hour mark, so I think we're gonna call it in.
Really quick though, before we log off for this week, let's take a moment to thank our corporate overlords over at infinitecbd.com.
Yes, definitely, guys. If you follow me on social media, you've seen that I've been spending the past couple months getting quite a few tattoos. I have my next one scheduled in the next couple weeks, but every time I've been getting one of these, after I take the bandage off, after it's healed for a couple days, I've been using their Afterglow product, which is absolutely amazing. It's helping the tattoos heal very nicely. It's this wonderful little oil that has a lot of antiseptic properties, and also obviously with the CBD element, it also helps with the swelling and the healing. And then with that as well, I've been taking those gummies, and they actually recently just launched the new flavor, the sour gummies, which I did get to try the other week, and they actually are quite amazing. So highly recommend those as well. But they literally have like they have something for like any kind of way you could think of using CBD. They have a version of it. They have shit for your hair to help with hair regrowth.
Wow.
Like they've got they have a new thing that I also picked up recently. That's pretty awesome. So the that lotion that we were using before, like the cream, they have it now in like a stick form, which makes it a lot easier because now you can just straight rub it on you without having to get your hands all greasy or anything like that and worry about accidentally touching your eye or anything.
Right.
But they've also got obviously the lube, which we are big fans of.
Possibly.
Yeah, it helps to lubricate and keep things nice and flowy for the fun times. But yeah, guys, highly recommend them. InfiniteCBD.com. Our promo code again is Tyde10. That's TYDE 10, and that's going to get you 10% off. Make sure to check them out. Check their products out. They have something for everything. They even have pet stuff. And I did get some for my dog back home in California. So guys, check them out. Stay tuned for more episodes from us. Like we said, we're going to talk about CERN. I think in the next couple months we might finally get to our JFK episodes. I've been thinking about that one a lot lately. I think
have you been researching that?
Yeah, so I think what I'd actually like to do, and this is the first time I'm mentioning this, but I think how I'd actually like to do this is to do several episodes, because obviously the JFK thing was a huge thing. I'd like to do several episodes, and each one be one version of what this could have been. So I'd like to do one of like the government doing it, one of maybe it was the mob, one of maybe the assassination being like a ritual sacrifice, which is one that I've actually been looking at like a lot lately. And I think that one would be really interesting. But I think like doing like maybe
I'm more interested in the theory that he was assassinated because he was about to drop the truth about extraterrestrials.
Yeah, and there's tons of different theories. So I'd like to dedicate an episode to each one of these theories because that's there's a lot of podcasts out there. There's a lot of documentaries out there about JFK, but they always seem to be focused on one idea. So I think it'd be really interesting if we did one episode where we just talked about each theory. That way, we
Right.
have like three, four, five, six of these, and people can listen to them and form their own conclusion because we can present like all
And
this different kinds of
I'm
evidence.
curious. I'm curious as to how Marilyn Monroe played a part in that.
Yeah, definitely. There's all sorts of things, but obviously that's going to require a ton of research. So that one's going to be a little bit
Right.
further down the line. But again,
Oh,
that
I'm
one's in
looking
the
forward to it.
pipeline. So stay tuned, guys. We'll keep you updated.
That said, I am Steve, reporting from Chateau Osimo, and this is Adrian.
And this has
Keep
been
watching the skis.
this has been an episode of the Tyde podcasts. And
Oh,
like
you know what?
always,
One forget. I forgot to mention this before we go. A quick PSA to all of the Kyles, Chads, and Karens who plan on throwing themselves bravely into the deserts of Area 51. Just remember to stay hydrated, make buddies with the Kyle, and make sure you have good phone reception when your parents need to come and pick you up.
don't go quietly into that good night.
No, do not go quietly into the night.
This
So,
is your Independence
Randy,
Day. I
storm the battles like a torn war chief. Like you guys collectively can reveal the truth of Area 51.
what we need is somebody with a megaphone to play that clip from Independence Day, the president's speech, just to
Yeah,
rile everyone up right before they storm the gates. They storm the
right.
Bastille.
But then before they turn to leave, there'll be the one autistic kid who will be amongst the front line. He will turn to everybody and with a smile say, "For Frodo."
he's gonna be like the character, the Randy Quaid character, sacrificing himself, jumping into into like the into the tank or whatever to explode it, and I'm back. Oh man. But anyways, guys, good luck. The raid's in 5 days. Godspeed. Keep watching the
Remember your
skies,
cardio.
everyone. Keep watching the
And
skis.
stay hydrated, preferably with water. But let's face it, water doesn't give you the supercharge that a Monster Energy will. So have that be your red pill. That'll be your spinach to Popeye. Crack open that monster, and that'll give you a +3 against all camo dudes you encounter.
Oh man.
And it will also unlock a Kyle's Berserker strength. So if you are an anime weed who befriends the Kyle, who has exhausted himself, and you happen to have a Monster Energy, you can give that to the exhausted Kyle. That will supercharge his Berserker ability for him to be punching through the drywall so you can casually follow from behind. So all you weeds out there who plan on participating, please remember to take care of your Kyle.
Pull off a fastball special, guys.
Keep watching the skis.